INFJs are known to live in their head, and I'm like this as well. I know how easy it is to fall into daydreams, and one of the main reasons for this is because reality just doesn't measure up. Whatever we can come up in our mind with, that is most definitely going to be 10 times better than reality. And I would be the first one to tell you, if that made us feel good, why change anything? We can live in our head. We are intuitive introverts. Like, what's the big deal? The point is that if we are not taking charge of our reality, then guess what? It's not going to stay the same. It's going to get worse. Because if we're not taking charge, somebody else will. And we will be put in a box that just doesn't feel good. So how do we get to a place where we're not only taking charge of our reality because we have no other choice and we're doing the bare minimum? No, how do we as INFJs actually get obsessed with our reality? How do we become this person that bridges our internal world with who we are on the outside? Because at the end of the day, yes, we're introverts, yes, we're intuitives, but that's not all that we are. We are a complete human being, and we also have our extroverted side. In order for us to feel whole, in order for us to feel excited about life and to feel like we want to move forward and we want to create something new, we have to actually build that bridge from our internal world to the outside and create a reality that we're obsessed with. Wouldn't that be great to wake up in the morning and eager to start our day and to create the things we were dreaming about? That's the ideal version. So today, let's talk about how to get positively obsessed with creating our reality. Before we get started, one last reminder, we still have the Black Friday offer on the Financial Abundance course for INFJs. If you get the course by tomorrow, December 1st, you also get the 10 principles on energy management for INFJs for free. So this is the best Black Friday offer I have had so far. So use that chance, and it's only valid until tomorrow. Why INFJs escape? Well, the first reason is our first function, which is that we are intuitives, introverted intuitives to be exact. And if you are an introvert intuitive first, we have so much capacity to create so many amazing adventures in our head. We can create our own dopamine. We can create so many sensations just about imagining how something could be. For us, all of those things that we can create in our mind, it's like we have done them. There are a lot of studies who, for example, had experiments where a runner, a professional runner, if they were thinking about running, it actually evoked in their mind the exact same sensation as if they would be running, despite the fact that they were moving, their body. But in general, the sensations overlapped a lot. And for us INFJs, this is one of the reasons why we get stuck in our mind, because it feels so great. Like, why do it in reality? You always say you have to create something twice. You have to create it once in your mind and then you create it in reality. For us, the first part is already 80% of the fun. So why even bother about the other 20%? The second one is our extroverted feeling function. So this function is the gateway to the external world. So we very often connect with that function first when we connect to our extroverted side. But the challenge here is that every single time you make a connection with the outside world, every time you express yourself, every time you bring something out, you feel the reaction very strongly. We're very sensitive to reactions. We can see if I actually stand up for myself, another person might feel bad about themselves, they might get triggered, this would look weird. We're very aware of how we actually affect other people. And because of that, we get very sensitive about it. It's not like people who can just bulldoze through life and are not aware of what's going on around them. This is not going to be a problem for them. But for us, we subconsciously have learned that every time we bring our internal world out, there will be some reaction, particularly, and this is a very important step here, particularly if you've hidden so much of who you are to the inside. Because then every single step, every small way of expressing yourself feels that much stronger, because those are the only reactions you actually see in others. It is a completely different thing once you've actually established that bridge of creating your reality, because then you're not going to feel those reactions so strongly. You have first off built an environment that is helping you be the person you want to be, people who have accepted that, and then it's kind of like way more fluid. It's not that big of a harsh step to express yourself authentically in a way that might trigger other people. And the third reason why INFJs lean into daydreaming is because reality can become overwhelming and stressful if we're not the one creating it. If you put an INFJ in an environment that is not healthy, that is toxic, how so many, situations are in work situations or in family life, whatever it may be, if you put an INFJ in that situation, so many INFJs just say, I just want to, duck my head down. I don't want to bother anybody. I just want them to leave me alone. But unfortunately, it doesn't really solve the problem. It can only help us that far because all we can do is say, I'm just going to hide from the world. But it's just not enough. We have to put our stamp on it one way or another because otherwise we're always going to be walking on eggshells. And I've said it before, I personally don't believe that you have to create something in reality in order for your life to matter. I actually think if we would be able to have this amazing experience just in our mind and our reality would be okay, everything would be great. But it's just not possible. It doesn't work. If you are not putting a stamp on the world of who you are, if you're not building a bridge between your internal world and the outside, if you're not making it a point to say, this is who I am, and anchoring that in, then people, the world, energy will just push you and make you smaller. It is not because somebody intentionally wants to hurt you. It's just how it works. You have to put your stamp on the world. You have to bring out who you are. And you will see that at the end of the day, it will actually create way less friction for you and will make life that much easier and more exciting. The shift. So for a lot of INFJs, this shift happens when they recognize that their reality is just not making them happy. There's just so much we can escape from. I have gotten to a place where I really felt like I will have a reality break. Like the reality that I was living was so hard for me that I continuously escaped more and more. I've told this story many times, but before I started this channel, I was in my mid-20s. I was still living with my best friend at that time from college, and I remember she came home and all I wanted to do is just put on my headphones and not even talk to her. And we actually had a really good relationship. It was just every single conversation that got me out of my internal world felt too much, because facing reality became harder and harder. And it became this hard because I wasn't making a point in creating that reality. It was like reality was created for me, and all I was looking for was a way out of it. So a lot of people will tell you then, well, how can you make it that your reality is just as exciting as your dream world? And as an INFJ, I can tell you this strategy has not helped me because I felt there's no way I can create a reality that is just as exciting and as awesome as my dream world could be. But that does not mean that we can't create that bridge. And the way I found that works really, really well for us INFJs is to ask the question, what if it never got any better? Because as INFJs who are future-oriented, we sort of kind of feel like, okay, something is going to change, it's going to get better. So we're not really confronting ourselves with our reality because we have the capacity to go into our mind. So if you really look at your reality from the perspective of externally observable facts, meaning not the way you experience it, but the actual fact, something that you could tell to somebody and they could verify it. So you could say, well, this is actually the apartment I'm living in. How you feel internally is not an externally observable fact. And so ask yourself, how happy am I with the relationships I'm really having? The amount of time I spent with my friends, my romantic relationship existing or non-existing, my family, my work relationships. How is that part of my life? How is the job that I'm currently working in? Is this satisfying to me? Is this going towards a trajectory that I know is going to be more and more in alignment with who I want to be? And you continuously ask yourself those questions. How do I like where I live? And before I started this channel, I looked at my life and I said, I actually don't like my life right now. I think it's boring. The job I have, yes, it's, good. It looks good on paper, but I know I'm not going to be satisfied doing this for the next 20 years. I also looked at my relationships and knew this is not right because my friends don't actually know who I am. And so when I confronted myself with the question, what if things never got any better? I was actually able to accept reality. And in order for us INFJs to start getting obsessed about reality, want to improve it, get excited about, we first have to accept it. The whole notion of you have to feel it in order to heal it, right? So that comes with a lot of grief of all the things we wanted to achieve or wanted to have, we wanted to experience, but are just not happening. And when we then get to a place where we accept our reality, we can then start being grateful and proud about it. Because there are so many people on earth who would love to have your life, who will love to have achieved what you have achieved, who will want to have the safety that you're having, who would want to live in the place that you're living in. And the story continues. There's so many people who say, oh, I don't have enough money for the lifestyle I currently want, and this makes me miserable, so I need to make more money. And, this will never end if you don't change your perspective. You will feel like this if you have 100,000 in the bank. You will feel like this if you have 10 million in the bank. There's always a way to upgrade your lifestyle. And you can always look at your life and say, well, this isn't good enough. And I haven't proven my worth or whatever it may be. So before we even get to a place where we want to improve our life, we first have to accept it. And that's why it's so important for us INFJs to remember the question, what if it never got any better? Accept where your life currently is. Accept and grieve all the things you wish you had right now that you don't. And then let's start looking at it from the positive perspective, because we can only improve what we already appreciate. So we have to start appreciating our current life before we can really get obsessed with it. So how do we as INFJs fall in love with our life? How do we positively get obsessed with it? Well, we create that bridge. So I always say what we see in our mind, that has to be our North Star. If you feel like, if I don't achieve that, then I have failed. Or if that is not happening, why even take a step in the first place? If that is your approach, you're never going to create that bridge. It's never going to feel exciting. If you, for example, have this dream of being an author, but currently you're working a job that you hate, then the next step is not continuing that job that you hate until you find a way to become an author. Actually, it's about going and getting another job that you hate a little bit less. And you might say, well, getting a job that I hate less isn't really going to help me to achieve my dream of being an author, but actually it is. Because what we have to look at is how we can improve our reality based on how our reality looked yesterday. Right? We want to create a better tomorrow in comparison to today, and we're not comparing it to our North Star. Our North Star can be there and it can guide us, because I can tell you what, it is much easier to write that book when you're in an environment where you're being paid fairly, where you feel like your colleagues are kind to you, where you don't have the pressure of being around toxic people, than it is to stay in a job that is draining you because you feel, well, an improvement in that job isn't going to solve my problem of my life altogether. Take small steps. Use your internal world as a compass, as a blueprint, as your North Star, and then take small steps that will improve your reality based on those externally observable facts. How can you improve your living situation? How can you improve your relationships? How can you improve your financial situation? And that's when the magic really starts happening. Because once you're able to create that momentum, and it always encompasses your internal world, everything that you put out into the world that you are making a choice about. So this is not something that is forced upon you or something that society expects of you, but you do because it excites you and because you feel like that makes my life more exciting. Every single time you take that step, It's one more part of you that gets anchored into reality. And before you know it, you've created this bridge between your internal and your external world. And at some point, you don't even know what is internal and what is external because they're so fluidly working together. And most INFJs, unfortunately, have very separate lives internally and externally. Once you're able to create that bridge, the excitement becomes part of your everyday life. Remember, if you want to take to the next level, if you want to take charge of your life, then why not start with your financial abundance? It will create so much more energy for you, so much more freedom that will help you to take the next step. And you'll get the 10 principles on energy management on top for free. Only until tomorrow. This is the Black Friday offer I have for you. Check it out through the links in the description. And if you want to watch another video now that is in alignment with today's topic, then check out the video you see on the screen right now. I'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.